resume that downtrend, which means it would have to drop at least $1 below that predicted low, or you're going to let the market kind of feel its way along for a little while, go sideways, do whatever it will, and then start to think about the possibility of a breakout above the predicted high as the market moves on up. Now, keeping in mind, of course, that if the market does go up, it's going to be running into that psychological barrier, which you always have to consider. Now, when you are looking at the charts in general, we talked about the vantage point indicators, what you can gain from the vantage point indicators. You have to keep in mind that there are a couple of lessons here. It's not just indicators. It's not just a matter of some kind of a magic bullet here that says, okay, this is the way it's going to be. But a couple of lessons you can learn from this is that you do not ignore fundamentals. And in this case, our fundamental information that we receive on a specific date was a government report, statistics about what numbers are out there. And secondly, do not ignore the technical analysis points. Like, don't ignore those previous highs. Don't ignore that doji candle top. All of those things are important. That's what other traders are watching, and so you need to be aware of what other traders are watching. They don't have access maybe to vantage point like you do, but you need to know what other people are thinking so that you can be prepared for how the market might turn. In closing, we want to take a look at kind of summarizing what we have talked about. Sometimes it is better to be out of the market and not involved in the trading and avoid any potential for loss than it is to be in a market where you do face that potential exposure. So always have to know what is the trader's perception of the report, and that tends to be more important than the prices or the actual, using the actual numbers, because what traders expect and what they get may not be the same. So you always want to be aware, especially in markets that have some closed times, like we have 24-hour markets in currencies, gold, other markets where you can work in the fundamentals fairly quickly, kind of more of a smoother trading cycle in a situation where in the ag markets where there are periods of the day when the market is closed, a lot of surprises can develop, things can happen. You need to protect yourself against those surprises as the best you can. And always keep in mind that fundamentals are going to rule, but we don't know the fundamentals. We don't know how to interpret them that well. So you always need to use your charts and your indicators to trade. Now, the reports are that kind of an event. That's what some people call them, where there's a known date, a known trader guesstimate, but an unknown price response. The report that we happen to focus on here was hogs and pigs, but keep in mind we have several important reports coming up this week. Tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. in Central Time, USDA will release its planting intentions estimates and grain stocks figures. Those will be key numbers for the particularly the soybean and corn market. So if you trade those, you need to kind of be aware of what traders are expecting. If there's a variation, for example, from about 89 million acres of corn, could be in for a surprise. You just kind of need to be aware of what people are thinking about. Now, the planting intentions, they will look ahead to what we expect for crops in 2010. Stocks will be looking back to analyze how the 2009 crop is being consumed. So both are likely to have some questions after the report. As you know, there's a long way between planting intentions and actual acres planted, pending on weather. If it's like last year, it could be a huge difference. Then there's also a lot of questions about the stocks report, because unharvested crops that are still in the field from last year's wet fall harvest season are counted as on-farm stocks. So it'll be interesting to see how USDA accounts for those. And of course, later in the week, we have the U.S. employment report that comes out on Friday. Unlike most reports, the employment reports that come out on a Friday, they cause an immediate reaction in the market, but traders won't be able to trade those numbers immediately, as the New York Stock Exchange and many other exchanges are closed on Good Friday. So maybe there's a situation here where the employment report hasn't been that major surprise like it was for a while, but maybe it could cause some gaps on Monday. All things to consider when you're looking at reports into the value of reports. Now, if there are any questions, I will attempt to answer any questions if you have any, about reports in general, or livestock, or numbers, or anything. I'll try to answer a question if I can. Meanwhile, if you're coming up with any questions, you will see the contact information on the screen. As said earlier, I'm not selling the product, so you got to contact the Vantage Point people themselves if you would like more information about the software and how to get a free forecast, what it can tell you, kind of what it's like. If you have any questions, as I said, I'd be glad to answer them. Okay, not seeing any questions. I appreciate your attending this webinar. We have a series of webinars that we have scheduled. We have one coming up on Thursday that will deal more with the crop report, as how to trade the crop report and what it tells us. If that's a particular interest of yours, if you're into the agricultural markets, that'll be a big report for you to follow and kind of know what you're going to be doing with those particular numbers that do come out on Wednesday morning. And we have other webinars that we will have. We have currencies, we have stock index, we have a lot of other webinars that will be coming up on a regular basis over the next few months. If there are no other questions, I'm going to turn it back to Darrell and say thank you for attending this webinar.
Thank you, Darrell, for an exceptional presentation. If the audience would want to give Darrell some applause, you have the means to do that through the raising hand icon where you were selecting agree and disagree. You'll see that there's an applause option there. We really appreciate his time today. Congratulations are going out to Ed as our winner of the Market Technologies $500 discount coupon. Ed, we're going to ask you to remain in the room so we can make arrangements to get the coupon to you. The webcast archive will be posted on Trader Planet later this afternoon, and we have made arrangements to email the link to everyone who has registered for this event. If you are interested in seeking further information on Vantage Point Intermarket and Analysis software, just select the Click Here link on the final slide. This will place a request with our friends at Market Technologies for free market forecasts and additional information on the trading software that Darrell has featured in this presentation. This concludes today's session. Thank you for attending, and all of us here at Trader Planet wish you a pleasant evening.